business comes down to a knowledge imbalance. Somebody knows more, someone is more creative, someone has a different perspective than someone else does. That's where you're finding value. That's where you're adding value.
What's going on, everybody? This is Jamar Jones, and welcome to the Foureva podcast, where we talk about things business, but get into things that are a little bit personal, because business is personal. I am the owner of Foureva Media. I'm a speaker and also newly an author of my book, Change Your Circle, Change Your Life. So I'm super excited to have an amazing guest today as we dive into really helping out founders and entrepreneurs. But this is some advice for first-time founders. So once again, we got Barnet Sherman from Tenbar Group. Barnet, give us some information about who you are and what you got going on in your life.
Jamar, it's great. It's great to be here, and I so appreciate this invitation. I absolutely love working with first-time founders. What I'm finding is there seems to be a consistent pattern through the folks that I advise to, and I hear from other advisors as well, of some anxieties and pressures that they feel sometimes as they're going through the process. So the first thing I want to explain to them is that you're not alone. You're not the only one doing this. You're not the only one feeling some of these frustrations, because look at it. You're working really hard. You've gathered your team. You've probably got a little seed capital, a pre-seed capital going. You've rented some space. You've got some prototype products in. Maybe you're even lucky. You've got some pre-sales from some early adapters. Fantastic. And You're out there trying to raise capital, and it begins to slow down, and things aren't moving quite at the speed they were, and you're feeling maybe a little frustrated, a little worried, and you feel like you are what? Foundering. You've become a foundering founder.
You're a foundering founder.
Right. So, the question is how do you get past that? Dispense with all those business pithy maxims and little nostrums and aphorisms you've heard. You know the ones. What? Fail fast and pivot. That's one, right? Have you heard that one?
Fail fast. Yep. Fail fast and
right?
pivot. I've heard of that.
If it ain't broke, break it. That kind of thing. Right? I know, right? They sound great. It's all wonderful, but it's heartwarming, but they're not tangible enough to get something going. So I think when you're an entrepreneur and you've reached that level where you want to get to the next level, simply having like fail fast and pivot, you go, well, we're failing, we should pivot. Don't do that, okay? Sit down, catch your breath. What is slowing you down? What seems to be moving forward? Where are those friction points? Where are those resistance points that you're going to need to smooth over? Once you've done that, and you've really identified these things, and it may take you a good week or maybe longer to do that, then you can make your decision as to whether or not you are going to pivot, number one, because maybe you just need some adjustments.
I want to just touch on a key point that I think you kind of glossed over to get to the meat and potatoes of it. But there's a key point that you said where you have to sit down and really evaluate what your business is, get into the nitty-gritty details. Because I think a lot of times of new time entrepreneurs and people in business, I don't care if you've been in business for 10 years, sometimes this step is always missed, of just really evaluating your business, seeing, where you're winning in the sales side of it, the marketing side, the actual operations, the production of it, from personnel, culture, just really evaluate your business. They just want to create, and they're just going, and they're not sitting down and getting that time to really evaluate and really make sure that they're going in the right direction. And I think that's what Barnet is really saying, like, get in the right direction and see if you need to pivot.
Yeah, I can follow up on that, because it goes actually into one of my second points is you can never do enough homework. I find it's one of my favorite sayings, and I learned it myself when I started my own business about 10 years ago. I started a hedge fund. I'd never gotten involved in this stuff. I was like many founders. I had an expertise in investing, but I didn't know much about operations. I didn't know much about some of the systems I needed. I didn't understand some of the contracts that would be required. I could learn really fast. That was not a good thing. And I really had to do a lot of homework on every different part of the company. I read every contract. I negotiated all the contracts with our compliance folks to make sure we were in compliance with both federal and state laws. I made sure that our operations were seamless. We had a lot of meetings with different vendors. A lot of first-time entrepreneurs miss this because they're such experts in their field. They may be great engineers, they may be great product developers, they may be great marketers, but they think they can delegate this off to someone else. You can't. You really have to learn that, and you have to be on top of it, right? I mean, you've started to run businesses,
Yeah, you gotta be a little dangerous in each area. That's kind of what what my take is on that. You gotta just get your knowledge. Don't be so dependent on others for always to have the answers. If you want to be effective in a lot of conversations, especially I'm talking about like any executive level position, you want to be a little dangerous in every area. Barnett saying like, hey, the compliance department was not his strong suit. That was something that, hey, you just pass that off. But if he just had a little bit of knowledge, and just in that area, all of a sudden you can give some value to a conversation. You can make sure you're not getting screwed over.
And the way you find that knowledge imbalance, the way you become the tipping point for you to be on the right side of the knowledge imbalance, to get that lever in your way, it may sound a little overwhelming at first because an entrepreneur is always stressed over two things: time and money. There's never enough of either. There really doesn't.
Amen to that.
Amen, right? Absolutely. So how do you do that? So now that I've given you this great advice, it said, well, you got to be on top of everything and do all your homework. How do you do it? Well, here's how you do it. First off, you've got to make sure you've got an information flow reporting process coming into you. It can be something simple like a daily internet scrape, and there's plenty of those out there for things that are happening in your industry. It can be weekly meetings. It can be both. Weekly meetings with your team. It can be outside advisors that are coming into that you're spending 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes on in the morning. You want to make sure you're getting that information flow coming up to you. That's how you do your homework. I said this is going to be tangible and hands-on for people and practical, and I want to keep it that way so people really come away from this with something that they can act on when they get back to their desk.
Yes, that is that's gold right there. That's gold. From your circle, you're basically saying like either get the information outwardly from the internet or from scraping methods, or if it's feeds, if it's however you're going to best internalize that information, or get involved with people within the right circles to get those pulse checks.
Study businesses which what I would call the exit multipliers. They don't show up at the top of the business feeds. They're not big headline grabbers, but they still come out with sometimes 5x, 10x multiples. And these are companies that sometimes do business to business. Sometimes they're in a market niche. Sometimes they are addressing a specific issue, but there are many, many more of those that get acquired or have exits that, mergers and acquisition, or have smaller exits through other companies that do very well for their founders, do very well for their venture capital people, investors rather. And those are the ones that I study to see what lessons I can learn from those, because there's many, many more of those, and the lessons you learn from them are far more applicable, or likely to be far more applicable to your business, as opposed to, wow, Jeff, I want to join Jeff Bezos on his trip to the moon. It's like, God love him, but candidly, I just want to be able to, have a nice comfortable vacation. But wouldn't be a bad thing either.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, don't try to be the Michael Jordan of your industry. Don't go for those gigantic, basically freaks of nature that are out there, that are these blips in time where it's so rare. So many things collectively have built up to that point, and they just took off to it. Go with those middle ground people that are still doing amazing things. They're just not getting headlines. But there are so many companies out there succeeding, thriving, doing amazing things, getting, like you said, great exits.
What I encourage them to do is to just Google up any number of venture capital firms and go into their portfolios and take a look at the names that they're invested in and see how many of those you actually recognize. Go and see what some of the partners usually list their exits on there, what firms they've exited from, and see how many of those names you actually notice. Usually it's pretty rare. I mean, every once in a while, the senior partner may have been involved in, PayPal or Yahoo or something big. But for the most part, most of those companies are in specific sectors and may not even be ones you're familiar with, but yet had very successful exits because they met a market need. And
Right.
like I
Right.
said, I encourage entrepreneurs to look at that and see what those are, and then look at those and see how those could work for them.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's all about perspective, right? I mean, that's it's just widening your perspective and not just being so closed off, and really just taking in what kind of other opportunities can I have to really make the right decisions. I think that also too, for a lot of my listeners that are on the podcast that listen to the podcast, they also, how do they obtain capital? How do they get to that capital, that basically that C word? How do they get to it? Because a lot of times they're just investing back into their business, and it's just a compound effect, and they just keep trying to grow through that, and they don't have the cash flow to really say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and allocate this amount to start building up that capital.
It's an issue that I come across very frequently, that there are small businesses that are seeing other businesses growing and they would like to access capital, and they're running into problems because either A, they don't have sufficient assets, that is hard assets. Maybe they're a service business, and a service business doesn't really have hard assets. So
Right.
a bank may not be willing to extend them a loan because a bank usually wants a building or some tangible asset behind it. They may not have sufficient cash flows to sustain a loan for leverage. On top of that, and this is unfortunate, as we know, there are a lot of businesses that are started by populations that, I don't know what the polite phrase is, but I'll be blunt, minority populations that have not had access to capital because of reasons that you and I know are not good. Okay.
Yeah.
Mercifully, that's right. It's just a fact of what it is. Unfortunately, has been. That is dramatically changing. There is more capital available now for previously overlooked founders, particularly overlooked entrepreneurs, overlooked small businesses, where people are looking to give capital and to extend capital to them. You have to do your homework on this. You have to look around, see what's out there, see what's available in your community. I can tell you a couple of places. I can tell you some things to get started with, because everyone thinks of the traditional ones. But your local government is actually pretty helpful. You can go to there's a local economic development authority, probably in most communities. Right.
I was just about to say that.
I see that. I love seeing Jamar smile. I do, man. It makes me feel good. Yeah, start up at the Economic Development Authority and see what resources are available. Often they may not have the capital for you specifically, but they will have the resources. They can connect you with the people, and we're going to get to networking. They're going to connect you with people who do have those resources. Now you can get help to have people come in, help you prep your financials, prep your pitch, prep your performance to get that in front of other folks. I think the other place to look is there are often grants. People should start looking at different foundations in their area, local foundations that have grants specifically for minority entrepreneurs that want to help them. There's a lot of grants available for women entrepreneurs that want to help and want to help build this up.
Yeah. I don't think people work, and that actually goes right into the next thing. But I think people don't leverage their community enough, and I'm learning that too for myself. I have a mentor that's been, helping me try to navigate and see which kind of areas I need to tackle. And one of them is getting more deeply involved in the community. And I think a lot of people feel alone. They're not, there's so many options out there for within the community, and you have to get involved. Such a good segue into network.
Yes.
That is such a key. I breathe it. I love it. I networking is how I have gotten what I've gotten to today. It's how I've been able to achieve most of my accomplishments.
You have to build your network as conscientiously and as aggressively as you build your business. When you meet somebody, no matter where you are, make sure you get their contact information. Make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn or some other social media. I also urge people to get something along the lines of like Salesforce or a similar type app that you can track your contacts with, because you can put down where they are. You have their email. You can do email blasts from there. You can do any number of things once you have it in that database. Last couple of years we've all been on Zoom calls, and we see all the people up there. We're on a Zoom call or webinar. on something that's of interest to us, and we're surrounded with all these other people that are on the same call that are of interest, that have things of interest to us. And what am I doing? I'm going on, as the call's going on, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm typing in names and I'm connecting. And it's very simple. It's like, hey, great to see you on today's webinar. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Click, boom, I get it.
Oh.
And then later on, I'll find, they connect, I'll pull their name off and I'll put it on to, into my CRM, and I'll go, okay, now I know who they are, I know where they are. I have a quick notice to where I met them and a quick notice to what their expertise is. And I'm shameless, because if I need help from somebody, I ask. So I work that network as much as I can. I build it out as assiduously as I can. And I make sure I have people from all fields and from all different businesses, because in my experience, I don't know about you, you can never tell where you need help from somebody with something.
Yes.
It may be business things, or maybe just, you just like the person. You're allowed to like people and make friends.
Hey, that's fine.
Doesn't hurt either.
Always like, oh, that person can't directly help me, so I just cut it off. Well, ask the person, say, do you know anybody? And also, if you're looking for help, or that maybe could benefit off of what you do, so say, do you know anybody else that could benefit off of our services and what we do? I'm sorry that this didn't work for us, but there's somebody else that follow up with these connections and this networking, because a lot of people don't follow up. They send that one message and then they just never again follow up with that person. We're all busy. All of us are busy. You might be busy. I mean, I'm busy. Barnet's busy. We're all busy. We got stuff to do, so we might not respond back to every single initial email or call or text. And, so follow up with these connections and try to build some rapport and find a way to, get in front of this person to have a conversation. You have to follow up. A lot of times follow up, it takes about 6 to 8 times for even an initial action to start on something. And then that's more of a sales statistic, but you can actually get exactly where you're trying to go by following up with these individuals. Secondly, it's all about timing. So that's and kind of picking back off of what Barnet's saying, as far as like, it's all about that timing aspect, because when you're building this network and you're constantly connecting, and you might connect with somebody, it's just a perfect timing situation. They needed that, a person like you to help with a person like this, and it's just a good match, and it takes off. Or they got a referral, like, oh, I was just talking to my guy Joe, and he just said he needed somebody for that. So they make another connection. It's all about timing. You want to connect, network. That's what you want to do. You don't want to just keep going, and selling your stuff, because you're not building any kind of rapport.
I appreciate the enthusiasm with that and how important it is. One, if you're collecting business cards, you're doing it wrong. We are in the electronic and digital era. You should be doing this all on your phone and technology. I know I am the world's oldest millennial. We've defined that. I have business cards with me, but more often than not, and almost all the time, I make sure I get it electronically. The other thing you mentioned, which is just perfect, is how to create rapport. Don't be just selling to them all the time, asking someone for a favor. That doesn't work. How would you feel if I'm always calling you up and asking for a favor? It doesn't work. So now that I said what doesn't work, what does work? Good listeners want to hear what works. What works is you becoming an information resource to them. Think about what they want. Take yourself out of your own shoes. Think about what they want. And equally,
are you saying provide value, and that's going to be beneficial to us? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. Be valuable. Be of value to somebody. Mother of God. I think I heard that from somebody else too once, but that's another story also. No, I'm kidding. That was a long time ago.
That's gold, because
that's good. No, it's good. There's so many other things to touch on. I did just want to kind of hit on those top 5, and maybe if I had to throw in a bonus one, I just would say project time becomes exponential. I mean, what I always recommend to people is set up a Gantt chart. If you don't know what a Gantt chart is, again, look it up. It's a time management tool. It's a very effective time management tool. And it's online, and you can get them for free. There are free apps for this. Mm-hmm. And really chart how your time gets used. And I mean every minute of your time. People assume, oh, this will take 2 minutes. And it never does. It takes 15, and then the next one takes a half hour, and you don't know where the day went. When
Yeah.
when you really take the time to log all your time and track where everything is, even lunch and the coffee breaks and everything. I know it sounds onerous, but all of a sudden you'll realize, wow, I do waste a lot of time. Geez, I didn't realize I, wasted 15 minutes doing that. Suddenly you
Yes.
have more time in your day to take care of the things that are prioritized and you want to do, not just for you, but also for your team, because now you're going to apply that same Gantt process to every part of the process of your
So
company.
right.
And you're going to start seeing where the friction points are.
I
People
love
are
it.
a lot happier because they're not as stressed, because you're not creating some unrealistic deadline that they can't hit, that they walk out of your office rolling their eyes, knowing that you have no clue what they're doing. You have no clue what they're doing. You just asked for some impossible deadline because you read somewhere something that says you should always set the bar high, and you just did. And now you see how the management problem of that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, it didn't work, and you didn't get the outcome at the end of the week.
Closing up, is there any last things that you want to say as far as just to that founder, to that entrepreneur, any last takeaways?
Yeah, I would offer, now that I've said, don't fall for pithy maxims, I'm going to close with one.
Okay.
Because I've given you so many tangible things to actually act upon to help the business. I hope we have. So the last thing I would end on is 2 words: don't quit. You're going to find resistance. They may not know you. They don't know your company. They don't know what you're doing. Don't quit. Get good feedback from people. Think about it carefully. Use your judgment and measure. Change if you need to, alter, pivot, whatever you've learned from those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, keep at it and don't quit.
Don't quit. Love it. Love it. Because, the truth is, if you knock on enough doors, one of them's going to open. And, you just got to have that don't quit mentality and be able to, grit through it. Where can people find you at?
I've got my website for the company is tenbargroup.com, and it's spelled out in letters, TENBAR group.com. And you can always find me at barnetsherman.com. It's just my name. If you Google Barnet Sherman into Google, you'll be able to find me, I promise.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Foureva podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the podcast. We push this out to all the different type of platforms on YouTube video form, but also on Spotify. So definitely get engaged, get involved, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell for more amazing content that we're going to be putting out. And don't forget, you can change your circle to change your life.